Now for our special report tonight, journalists across the globe have risked their lives to tell you the stories that matter, stories that tug at your heartstrings, stories that expose the ugly face of mankind, of governments. Journalists working in violence-hit countries have often risked their lives to do their job. The latest incident of reporters paying with their lives was in Afghanistan just this week. Their only crime? They were doing their job. On World Press Freedom Day today, Gravitas pays a tribute to the 10 journalists who died in Afghanistan 4 days ago.
On April 30th, an attacker riding a motorcycle detonated explosives in the Afghan capital. Half an hour later, as journalists rushed to the scene of the attack, another explosion ripped through Kabul. A suicide bomber, allegedly posing as a journalist, blew himself up as a group of journalists waited by a security cordon. 9 journalists were killed in what was termed as the deadliest day in Afghan media history.
What happened is precisely the type of scenario we look at during the training sessions we organize in Afghanistan. A first attack takes place and it's meant, amongst other things, to attract journalists, and then a second attack happens, targeting them. Of course, the journalists who turn up to do their job and cover the first attack are the victims of a second attack. This is the worst attack since the beginning of the war in Afghanistan in 2001.
One of the most prominent journalists who were killed that day was Shah Marai. A veteran photographer with the news agency AFP, Marai rose through the ranks. He started as a fixer in 1996 with the agency and went on to become their chief photographer. He chronicled the fall of Taliban in 2011, his most notable work. Shah Marai is survived by 6 children, including a newborn daughter.
And he was always ready to go anywhere, even if it was dangerous. He would assess the risks, of course. But he had a passion for news. He wanted to be the first every time. He had tons of informations because he was also centralizing all the information for the photographer network at AFP. So yeah, he had a lot of. He was a huge asset for the office.
54-year-old Yar Mohammad Toki was due to marry his fiancée in less than a month. A camera person with Afghanistan's first 24/7 news channel TOLO News, Toki leaves behind his ailing mother and an unmarried sister, extremely vulnerable. He was the sole breadwinner of his family and spent most of his salary on medication and doctor's bills. 3 journalists from the Radio Free Europe Radio Liberty died in the April 30th attack. One who had barely even begun her career. 28-year-old Muharram Durrani was to begin working in mid-May and was on her way to the media organization's office for training. Sabawun Kakar was a 30-year-old journalist and a member of the agency's video team for the last 5 years. His colleague Abdullah Hananzai was just 26 years of age and had previously focused on the country's anti-narcotics program. 4 more journalists died in the line of duty on that fateful day. Ghazi Rasuli, a 1TV reporter, Navroz Razabs, a cameraman with 1TV, and 2 journalists who worked for Mashal TV, Salim Talash and Ali Salimi. Just hours after the suicide attack, a BBC journalist was shot dead in the coast region of East Afghanistan. 29-year-old Ahmad Shah will be remembered as a versatile and energetic reporter. Back in 2016, 7 TOLO TV employees were killed by a Taliban suicide attacker who rammed a car bomb into a bus driving them home from the station. But Monday's attack is surely the deadliest day for journalists in Afghanistan since the US-led campaign ousted the Taliban in 2001. Bureau Report, WION.
A sobering reminder of what this profession entails, what it stands for. But like most discussions, the talk around press freedom has also become vitiated. Social media is flooded with rhetorical statements on how the press must be fearless, independent, strong. We agree. It is the most vital sign of a thriving democracy, but unlike others, we also ask uncomfortable questions. Is free press a myth, we ask? Does such a thing truly exist? Has the media ever been truly unbiased? We'll take all those questions one by one. For the moment, we're beginning with the latest reports and what they say about the state of the press. UNESCO and the International Federation of Journalists have released a new report on press freedom in South Asia, and the findings are worrying. The International Federation of Journalists has documented 68 cases of journalists being detained or jailed in South Asia. Pakistan leads that pack. Between May 2017 and April 2018, 4 journalists were jailed in India, 21 in Pakistan, 19 in Nepal. Maldives jailed 11 journalists. Bangladesh put 10 behind bars. The numbers are pathetic. In today's digital age, internet plays a significant role in helping journalists do their jobs effectively. So internet shutdown is a big hurdle for those trying to relay information in real time. And India tops that list. The UNESCO report lists instances of internet shutdown in South Asia, which stands at 97, India leading that list with 82 such cases. Afghanistan remains the most dangerous place for journalists in South Asia. Between May 2017 and April this year, 22 journalists died in the line of duty in Afghanistan. 5 were killed in Pakistan in the same period. And now to the question of a free, unbiased press. Did it ever exist, we are asking. Can the media really isolate itself from society, its biases and its emotions? And who decides who is biased? Take the example of the freedom struggle and the role of the press during that period. Was the media unbiased in India? No. It spoke against the colonists, the British. It backed the freedom struggle. It followed a cause. The press does not operate in isolation is the point we're making. Media is a business now. There are always strings attached, more so now than ever before. And despite all these problems, all these issues, the media must uphold its fundamental principles, those of unbiased reporting. Then can a global news organization get away by writing an asymmetrical report? Our next report will tell you what we're talking about.
In September 2017, journalist Gauri Lankesh was shot dead in her home in Bengaluru. Within 24 hours, journalists from across the country rallied to demand justice for Lankesh. So far, so good. Along the way, the crime got a new spin. A case of murder became a case of persecution of journalists. The narrative gradually changed to journalists being gagged and intimidated in India. How they apparently paid for their lives for exposing the truth. Media agency Reuters, one of the world's oldest and most trusted, seems to have been swayed by this rhetoric. A recent report on the state of Indian media claims that journalists are increasingly facing threats for publishing news critical of the government. The agency spoke to a certain section of journalists known for their anti-government position. They claimed they were being threatened with physical harm, abused on social media, and ostracization by the Modi administration. The report said the situation was worsening as the next general election approaches. In publishing this report, Reuters has flouted the basic tenet of reporting, that is, getting all sides of a story. By only highlighting the version or opinion of left-leaning journalists without substantiating it with facts and without underscoring the opposite point of view. The report is a textbook example of what's wrong with the press. The journalists named and quoted by the agency claimed that they were harassed and threatened by pro-government activists, even faced with death threats on the social media. While they are entitled to their view, they tell just one side of the Indian press story. A contrarian view was neither sought nor quoted. All the report did was end with some comments from the ruling party and one quote of a supposedly pro-government journalist rubbishing the idea of freedom being curtailed. Media watchers in India and elsewhere have slammed this biased report. It is nobody's contention that all is well with the media. But to paint the picture with a broad stroke and push lopsided agenda-driven stories isn't acceptable. Perhaps the so-called custodians of free press will use this day for introspection before sitting in judgment over others. Bureau Report, WION.